My electrician turned to me and asked, "Do you have a gun?" At around Christmas time, my wife and I had been having some issues with the lights, and I wanted it to be fixed by Christmas Day, so I finally hired a plumber. It wasn't even from Craigslist. It was a friend of a friend, mainly because I didn't want my wife to worry. But when he came, the guy was huge. I'm talking 6 feet 9 inches, maybe 350 pounds, built like he could play linebacker in the NFL. "Yo" was the only thing he said when I opened the door. I looked behind him expecting to see some sort of company van, but he just came in a regular Hyundai. "What's up?" I responded, trying to hide my intimidation. My wife was sitting in the living room when we walked through. I could tell straight away that her spidey senses were picking up on bad vibes, but I still led him down the hallway toward the attic hatch. When we got to the hatch, I pulled down the ladder and gestured for him to go up. Standard stuff, but he didn't move. He just stood there at the bottom of the stairs, staring up into the dark opening above us. That's when he turned to me and asked, "Do you have a gun?" I laughed. Ha ha ha. I thought it was some weird joke or something, but LeBron, looking didn't laugh back. He just kept staring at me, waiting for an answer. "Why do you need a gun, bro?" I asked. My voice cracked a little. He didn't answer. Before I could say anything else, he sprinted down to the bedroom and grabbed the handgun we keep in the nightstand drawer. I didn't even have time to react. My wife screamed my name. I was frozen because he didn't point it at us. He turned, rushed back to the ladder, and climbed up into the attic in seconds. That's when we heard it. Bang, bang, bang. The electrician had just started shooting into an empty room for no reason. The ceiling shook. My wife collapsed against me. Then we heard shouting. A man's voice. But it wasn't the electrician. Someone else was up there. I stopped caring about my dignity. I grabbed my wife and we ran out of the house, already dialing 911. I didn't even know how to explain what was happening. Luckily, the police arrived in minutes. They went in with guns drawn. Me and my wife waited on the curb. She was having a panic attack and I wanted to cry, but I told myself not to be a little bitch and instead be strong for her. When the police finally came back out, they had him in handcuffs and on a stretcher. Not the electrician, another man, one I'd never seen before. He looked like the human version of a raccoon. Skinny, dirty, wild eyes darting everywhere. The definition of white trash. His leg was bleeding and I knew that's where the electrician had shot him. The electrician walked out behind him, completely calm, and handed the gun to an officer. A cop came over to explain. "Did you know that someone's been living in your attic?" That time I couldn't hold back my reaction. I gasped. My knees went weak. I felt like I was going to throw up. The officer continued. "That man on the stretcher has been living in your attic for months. We found food wrappers up there, along with dozens of water bottles, blankets, and a bucket he'd been using as a bathroom." I held my wife tighter as she made a sound like a wounded animal, but turns out none of that was even the worst part, because that's when the officer said something that made all of this make sense. The man had drilled tiny holes into the ceiling, right above your bedroom and bathroom. He's been watching you every single day while you slept and showered. That's when the electrician walked over with a smile on his face. He flexed his biceps. "If it wasn't for me," he spoke, "you would have never found out." But I noticed him the second I looked up from the ladder. The man hiding in the shadows had a knife in his hand, ready to attack, and that's when I asked for the gun. I didn't even care that he was showing off. This stranger had just saved our lives. Me and my wife both agreed to raise his pay, and when she wasn't looking, I gave him a hug and said, "No homo."